Wow, look who we found today. Mr. Anthony Valkyrie, I looked all over for you yesterday. I couldn't find you. Very sad.
Did you look in the Delta Sky Lounge at JFK?
It's the one place I didn't look. I was at the Delta Sky Lounge at LaGuardia. Dang it.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman right there. Anthony Valkyrie, fresh back from a quick day trip to the sunny state of Florida. But Anthony, how are you, man?
Good. I woke up at 4:30, or woke up before, got on a flight at 4:30. Wasn't going to tell you, and just going to be in Florida and do the show. But my flight got delayed, and then I couldn't make it. So, and then I was home last night. So in and out. The good news is the project I'm working on in Florida is 6 minutes from the airport.
Wow.
Literally 6 minutes. So
that is really good news.
And I live 10 minutes from Kennedy, so it works out.
Wow, that's really nice. You know, I live about 15 minutes from an airport, but I never go there. I choose to drive the hour to JFK because I do not want to deal with that one particular airline that'll make me like transfer every single time I fly in like Baltimore or something.
United and LaGuardia.
What is that?
Is it United Airlines at LaGuardia?
No. LaGuardia is about an hour from me. No, MacArthur on Long Island.
What is it called?
MacArthur Airport. I slept.
But I mean, who flies out of there? I didn't even really know that's a real airport.
Southwest. They have direct flights to Florida, which will come in handy with our guest today, Mr. Paul Leone, the CEO over at the Breakers, which is not actually behind me, but I wish I was there. But other than that, it's very difficult for me personally to fly around the country. I'd rather have more direct flights. But
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is going to be one of my clever transitions, Anthony. But you know what I really like, Anthony? The Ecotech wastebasket. Why? Because they save up to 90% in storage space compared to regular wastebaskets. I know, Anthony, you're using them in your house, and I'm so excited because as medias are coming back, more people are buying these things because they realize it's so much easier than paying those high wages to get people to empty them and protect those wastebaskets.
Right, and those people that didn't see the show 2 days ago, they don't know it also holds about a 10-pound cat.
And I'll tell you, that cat is getting fatter every day, which still maintains the integrity of
it's COVID weight. It's COVID weight. Everybody's got a 6-month transition out of COVID weight. So you got 6 months to get your COVID weight off. So the cat's got 6 months.
I've got the cats on a weight loss plan right now, but forget about that. I want to talk about.
Don't bring Paul in yet.
Okay. What do you want to?
Because when because when I'm having a day where I'm just like, I just want to go and I just want to run away. But, in my mind, running away is running a really complicated, sophisticated, nice 5-star hotel.
Right.
So to me, that's a relaxing day, right?
Yeah.
So I think of the well-tanned, my friend Paul, who I met at Margaritaville a couple of years ago. And every single time I think, matter of fact, I'm going to go down there for vacation. I just decided. Every time I think about, like, if I can just retire, I think about working my butt off at a 5-star hotel in Florida. So that to me is my idea of retirement.
Excellent. So I want to warn everybody, today's conversation is going to be fun and spirited, and let's play a game to see if I'm actually going to be able to ask any questions today, because I know Anthony is going to be going freaky deaky with all of the operational conversations that were going to be happening. So it'll be fun. But I think it'll even out, Anthony, because you didn't say a darn thing on yesterday's show.
Yeah, I was quiet yesterday.
All right, do we have permission to bring in our guest at this point?
Bring Paul and his tan in.
All right. The most wonderful hotelier, Paul Leone, CEO of the Breakers. You all know the Breakers. How could you not know the Breakers? One of the most famous hotels in the world, one of the most historic hotels in the United States, and Paul might be the last family-owned grande hotel in the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
It is certainly one of the few, and it's actually the only large historic luxury resort in America still in the hands of its original owners.
Oh, wow.
As we celebrated, Anthony and Glenn, our 125th anniversary this year. So there are some other family-owned hotels, and some have had a pretty long run, but all others have been traded a time or two. This is pretty unique.
So when looking at the generations and looking at who's up next, how many more years do you think it'll sustain itself?
Well, let me tell you, the next generation, guys, we've spent about 15 years now getting them ready for the transition, and it's starting to happen. I've worked with 3 generations already. There's a 4th in the wings, and I can tell you their attitude is they will hold this infinitely. It will not change hands.
So Paul, when you talk about training, you're literally training them. You were at their baptisms or confirmations or right, or whatever religion they are. You were there at their birth, and now you've been training them since the day they were born.
That's fun. You put it that way, Anthony. You're absolutely right. So I've been with the company 36 years, thank God, and so the generation that is coming on board now are in their mid 30s, early 40s. You're absolutely right. They have experienced this property as children, and now as in our last session with them, some of our senior board, I said, now you're in the PhD. We started at the bachelor's level, master's. You guys now have a PhD in how special, how valuable this property is, and they all agreed. 29 people in the next generation, they want to carry this thing out 100 more years or more.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. But besides the family aspect, I find it jaw-dropping that you've been in the same place for 36 years. How did you pull that off?
Oh boy. Well, I'm a person of great faith, and really by the grace of God, I landed here at 27 years old, and I thought it was going to be the greatest job ever. And it turned out to be true, but it did not start out as the greatest job ever, guys. What the sort of magic in this is, it was really needed so much work, every aspect of it, culturally, process-wise, physically, and I had the energy and the passion for that, and it was, it's been a huge job. And so to this day, even though we've solved a million problems, we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars, I cannot wait to get to work every day. I still am a kid in a candy store. There's more work to be done. There's excitement everywhere I look. In spite of this being one of the most successful hotels in the business, we see nothing but opportunities on the horizon.
Well, that's the thing that amazes me the most. When you say 35 years, there's a lot of people, not really hotel people, but whether you're a teacher or a fireman or a police officer, stay in the job for 35 years. So, okay, you love your job, you stay in it. Like, you are literally chopping at the bit. I can see it. I can see your enthusiasm and emotion for this hotel. Like 35 years later, I get bored. Like, the longest I've ever been in a hotel, 7 years. And that was like, by the 7th year, I still loved it, but I was bored out of my mind. I know that's a much bigger property, and that's literally a city. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know if it has its own zip code, but it should. So there's enough to keep you busy. But still, at the end of the day, doing the same gig at the same place for 35 years, how do you get that enthusiasm every day? Like, what is it?
Yeah, no, it's fun to hear you put it that way. It is, so that allows me to think of 2 things off the top. One is, we learned as we rebuilt the hotel and every aspect of it over the years, and going back to the 80s when we started this journey, that continuous improvement was going to be a key part of our culture and our brand and our way of running the business. So we like to say, on our best day, we can do better. And so we're never satisfied. Complacency is the enemy, especially, and it usually shows up when you're on the top of your game. And so I think, we get that from a period in this 125-year history where the hotel struggled, and that's when I joined. So I got to see what that was like and what that felt like. And we don't ever want to be in that position again, Anthony. So in spite of our success, there's this attitude of continuous improvement. and never resting on our laurels. And then conjunction with that, we have an ownership group. Coincidentally, I'm meeting for the first time since COVID started. I've got two of our key owners and directors here today for a few days. It's the first time they visited in 15 months. And we are going to talk about 5 and 10 years of projects that I have on my desk. You can't see it in front of me. I've got 5 to 10 years of unbelievable projects.
Wow.
That I'm working on that, and lastly, and so we've got this preservation. We've preserved this masterpiece in top shape, but we're also always modernizing in a compatible way. So yeah, there's just, you're right. You do see. I can't wait for these meetings the next couple of days, and to have the go ahead to work on these next level projects that are going to be so exciting.
I'll say, Paul, one of the things that I've liked about your hotel, I've stayed there 2 or 3 times prior, is that it is historic. It is classic in terms of its architecture and design, but you've managed to cleverly put in all of the modern things that we need in order to have a successful vacation or meeting or event. I've been there for a couple of meetings and found it just to be an incredible atmosphere to have in-person meetings. And I can't wait for all of us to get back to those really, really soon.
Yeah, so that's one of the great lessons we've learned, where in the early years it was sort of preservation. We've got to just, get this thing back to great condition. And then as we did that, then it was modernization and how to attract and serve those emerging markets. And so our guests that return, like you, Glenn, they'll see what they have always loved, and it will be in top shape, and they'll always see something new. We're always unveiling something new. And I think that's pretty unique, Anthony, for a historic luxury property. And again, we're blessed by an ownership group that allows us to invest more capital every year in this property than any property I know of. And I don't say that to boast. It's just a fact. And so some of my colleagues and our friends in the business say, how can you guys do this? And I say, it's very simple. Return on investment. Why do they keep allowing us? We make it work. It's not easy when you're investing 3 times probably the norm, 25, 30 million a year, and we make it work. But that's the strength of this property.
Wow, 25 or 30 million a year. That's a couple of $1 million every single month that's going out the door. That's what, $500,000 plus a week. That's pretty insane.
But Paul, if I can kind of take this for a second,
this is you.
Right, I want to put it in perspective, right? You're taking a person today, a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old in 2021, and you're showing them the same hotel, okay, that you showed them 125 years ago.
Unbelievable.
So if you're not investing those millions of dollars every year, the time you get to the year 2021, you're so far behind that you're done. Their great-grandmother is going to bring them there for their 100th birthday, and that's it. If you're not investing that money. So it is not only, it's not like looking at the ownership or even looking at Paul and saying, wow, you guys are amazing. It's like, listen, if you want this hotel to last another 100 years, you have to do it because you want to inspire that 30-year-old with a new family or that 40-year-old, not just a person bringing their great-grandchildren there. And so that's what you've done. And I think you've done insanely. I don't think it's been done before the way you guys have done it.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I agree with everything you just said. And again, it's, so as obvious as it is, the part that's not so obvious when you say it's never been done before is the level we do it at. I think most in our comp set, and there aren't many, right? Because it's a very unique size and scale of this property. But if they spend 5-10 million a year, they'd be lucky with their ownership groups, right? And so we're doing it in sort of an extreme level. Yeah. And the fun part is it's working.
So what I'd like you to do, if you haven't done it already, I'd like you to go back and figure out how much laundry you've washed, how many pounds, okay? How many biscuits or pastries have you made, okay? How many, and this is interesting, how many executive chefs have you had in 125 years? And how many general managers have there been in 125 years? Do you know that number?
I don't know I definitely don't know the number of biscuits and
No,
pounds.
but the general manager.
General managers. I kind of know, and I think it's probably a dozen, something like that. Yeah, but
you're the longest by far.
I am, thank God. Yeah, I am. It's been an unusual run, and what's great about it, as you picked up on, is, man, I can't wait to get to work every day. This is just so much.
You know what? I wouldn't want to meet you if for some reason you weren't there anymore. I wouldn't want to talk to you because it really is part of who you are.
Wow. You are right. You can't separate the two. It's really not a job. It's my life at this point. We live on property. My wife and my wonderful my four sons, all four of them, we moved on property when I became president in 1994. I was 36 years old. Tells you how desperate the company was back then to put me in charge at 36 as a CPA.
Wow.
But Ben was 2. Griffin was just born. Jake and Nikki came along, and so it's our life. It's not just mine.
Are they in the business?
No. Well, no, they're not. But they all have a passion for. They tell me all the time what I'm doing wrong. They tell me everything they see on Instagram. Dad, why did what are you doing here? Did you hear this? They kind of are. But my son, Nick, is our youngest. He's graduating from Cornell in May. And he's going to go into the luxury real estate business sales. My son, Jake, is in the luxury real estate development business. My son, Ben, is an artist, and so he's in a design. So, I mean, they're all attached in some way.
But no, I'm really glad you said that your son who's going to Cornell is getting into the development business, marketing, whatever you say. I'm glad you kind of I was wondering why you were hedging your bets, but I'm glad you said that because as operators, he's not in the business.
You're right. He's not.
But you can't tell a Cornell grad that's graduating into real estate he's not in the business.
Right.
No way. Somebody once said it to me, and I think it was well said, is you were in the business of hotel. You were in the hotel business. Now you're in the business of hotels. So when I was developing and doing the more real estate stuff for Tishman, somebody at Tishman said that to me. Before you were in the hotel business, now you're in the business of hotels. So your son may be in the business of hotels.
Good point. Yeah. Well taken.
So we got a great question from Matthew. Looking at the site now, humongous properties. How many room types do you have? Because that building was probably built before they had uniform room sizes and types.
There's only one room type. No, just right.
No, whoever asked that question, it's a great question because that is a major challenge for us as compared to a 538 room hotel built today would have, just a couple of different types. We have over 20. I lost count. I mean, and it's made it much more complicated for our team, but they tackle it.
So can you go back for a second? I'm a history guy, especially hotel history. Go back to 3 years before the doors opened. Why did they build it? Who built it? What was it like? How complicated it was, and who came there?
And maybe tell the story about how the Flaglers built the railway to bring people down to Florida.
And that is the story. Henry Flagler, who was one of Rockefeller's key partners, and many books and reports on Flagler say he was the brains behind the operation, like a super smart guy. Late in his 70s, I guess, one of the richest men in the world, and he was intrigued by Florida, done all he needed to do at Standard Oil back then. And he started developing from the north part of Florida down a railroad. And in conjunction, because with each mile of railroad that he developed, he got acres and acres of land along the coast of Florida. And everything I've learned about Flagler, he's not only smart, he was a visionary, he was audacious. And so imagine this, he shows up here. This is, I'm pretty sure is truth as the history is recorded. He shows up in Palm Beach. Right behind me in this window is the beach in my office. This is like a jungle. There is almost nothing on the island of Palm Beach back then, other than a lot of mosquitoes and some alligators.
Right.
Now, he had developed a few properties north of us. St. Augustine was his first stop. And there's an amazing property there called the Ponce de Leone Hotel, which is now the administrative building for Flagler College. Unbelievable architecture. And so when he gets here, as he's moving down, building the railroad south, and he lands in Palm Beach, for some reason, Anthony, when he stepped foot on this property, he looked around and said, in spite of probably being beaten up by mosquitoes back then, we don't have mosquitoes today. I don't know how they got rid of them. We don't have any bugs here. He said, I am going to build one of the finest resorts in the world. And it's interesting. He actually started on the inland waterway side with what was called then in 1894, the Royal Poinciana Hotel. Tell you how audacious he was. He builds the largest wooden structure in the world in this hotel. It was over 1,000 rooms. I think at its peak he had 2 additions.
Wow.
The bellman, I think, rode bicycles through the hallways and they were so long. And it was so successful in 1896, he builds the Overflow Hotel on the ocean side, right? The main hotel was inland, right across the golf course and overlooking the inland waterway, which was cool. But he builds the Overflow on the ocean side. And people start calling saying, we want to, and it was called the Palm Beach Inn. And they start calling saying, I don't want a room at the Royal Poinciana. I want one down by the breakers. The guests ended up naming the hotel. So they subsequently named it the Breakers. And back to the other part.
Why did they name it the Breakers?
Because of the waves. The waves, we don't, this isn't, the California coast or the Long Island coast where I grew up where the waves are crashing, but there's always wave movement here. There's always wind. We're very close to the Gulf Stream. And so that creates some turbulence even on the calmest days, which is good because it also creates a breeze in this, warmer Florida climate. And so the guests in the early days were the who's who. It was the wealthiest, and they came for 9 weeks. The hotel was open for at most 3 months, and they were closed the rest of the years. Which
during the winter season,
yes, the winter season, and the original Poinciana was a wooden structure. It ended up being demolished in 1930 without air conditioning and with the only being open 9-12 weeks a year. It didn't last very long. The Breakers, it was a blessing in a way that it burned down twice. The original Breakers were wooden also. And what you see behind Glenn, the next generation of Henry Flagler's wife, Mary Lily Keenan, her brother, William R., when the second hotel burned down, he said that now we're going to build something that's going to last forever.
What year was that?
That was 1925.
So I would imagine in your hotel, you can make a list of firsts as far as hotels. I would imagine you were the first to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, it was the world's largest at a time as well, I believe. The Royal Poinciana, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. I can't wait to, believe it or not, I've never stayed there.
I know. You mentioned that to me, and you told me you were going to come a couple of years ago. You didn't.
I'm coming in July. As soon as we get off this, I'm sending you a text, and I'm coming down. I'm going to be there for 5 days. I need a vacation. I haven't had a vacation in a long time. Right. Even though we all had a vacation, we didn't have a vacation.
That was it. So it was so relaxing.
Did you get shut down during COVID, Paul?
So it was March 16th last year, a year ago, when I called our owners, our board, and we had not yet been told to shut down other than to non-essential. Like hotels ended up staying open to non-essential, but we had not been told to shut down. But I called our owners and I said, we need to close up. We need to shut down. I said, our staff is extremely nervous. Obviously, they're worried about their families, worried about their health. The schools are starting to, close. So let's shut down, sort of, study this thing, figure out what's going on. And 2 days later, the government would have shut us down. That was just coincidental. So
give me the backstory of the moment and where you were when you realized you're going to shut this hotel down, because I'd imagine the hotel hasn't been shut down since it opened.
The hotel has not been shut down. Well, there's a lot more history to it. It was taken over by the military in World War II. That's a whole story. In the 36 years I've been here, we have only been closed twice due to hurricanes, and once was for a month, and another was for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So at this moment, back, late February, mid-February, when we started monitoring, like everyone else, what's going on here? Is this just the flu or is this the pandemic, right? And as we got closer to March 16th, with all the intel we'd been gathering, it all of a sudden hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, okay, we've got enough info. This is not going to be good. And so let's get out of the way. That's what I said, for our owners and also the town, because we're the biggest, obviously in a small town, we're the biggest business. I said, I think it would be helpful to the town too, because a lot of people are trying to figure out what they should do. And so we closed before we were asked to. Coincidentally, 2 days later, we would have been asked to close except to essential workers. And as much as we would have liked to help, this isn't a place for essential workers during a period like that. So we thought, let's just close up. And the minute we closed, guys, my executive team, I'm so proud of them. We have 14 people on our top executive group, 50 senior managers below them, and 250 other managers. The minute we made that decision, we went into the war room and we worked nonstop. In 8 weeks' time, I would say we did 4 months' work, and we're able to say confidently, and still in a very, uncertain environment, we reopened on May 22nd, the Thursday before Memorial Day. Our owners were nervous. They're in remote parts. No one, and they're in places like New York, which was getting really scary, the city. And I said, listen, we're not trying to be heroes. We're not trying to be heroes. We're not trying to make a quick buck. That's not what we do in the 125-year-old business. We're here for the long haul. And we're definitely not going to let anyone get hurt. But we think we can open carefully, and we think we should.
Now, how was it to get employees back? Did you furlough them? What did you do?
Yeah, so as we reopened, we had 2,300 names on the payroll as we closed, and about 500 of those were part-time on call. 200 were our seasonal workforce from Jamaica, who we had to immediately send back, by the way. And I'm proud to say, I didn't know what they were going to find in Jamaica, but I was pretty sure they weren't going to find an unemployment system like ours. We cut their 6 or 7 months stay short by 2 months, or maybe more, 3. And I said, we're going to pay you through the period that you were going to be here. Not full pay, but substantial pay. We sent them back. So then as we reopened May 22nd, I think we had about 1,000 full-time employees come back in. And we didn't force anyone to come back in, right? We said, listen, if you're not comfortable, you're furloughed. We didn't lay anybody off in that initial many months, and only very few even as we've come through this. But, then the government programs kicked in. They're making, Florida had the lowest unemployment, one of the lowest in the country. They're going to fix that because it's ridiculous. $275 a week. Thank God the Fed came in with 600 in that first round. And so we knew we paid everyone the first 8 weeks, full pay. We had no idea if we were going to get any help from the government. That's part of our long term. We love our people. The tenure here is incredible. We never cut pay. We started bringing them back, getting them about 30, 35 hours a week. So they were going to do better coming to work than staying at home.
Right.
And then we've just built on. Today we have about 1,600 full-time back at work. And we cannot wait for our Jamaicans to come back. These people are amazing.
Are you seeing your demand for July and August when you look at your revenue management sheets? Are you seeing the demand better than 2019, the same, or worse?
Great question. I would say on the leisure side, better. Yeah, and that's what we've just seen coming through. You know, Easter a couple of weeks ago marked kind of the end of the Thanksgiving to Easter high season. We like to say, when I started at 35 years ago, we almost thought about closing up again in the summer like the old days. And I did the study. I was the hotel controller back then, crunching the number. I said, we should not close. We're at least making contribution margin. It's going to be very hard to start back up every year. Today, there's high season, and there's season, and there's never a real low season. And so we just came through. And by the way, we've only been selling 70% of our guest rooms. We could have sold 100% of these rooms through the season. We decided to still, to still be cautious, very cautious. Our restaurants, Anthony, only 70% of, even though our governor gave us the green light months ago to open everything up. And our governor, I think, has done an amazing job. Big fan of his. We decided to keep it at 70%. We just felt like and only certain number of seats, and to keep some space, keep people comfortable and safe. But back to your question, the demand, we could have run 100%. We would have been busier than pre-COVID. Now, on the group side, of course, groups evaporated. Groups are about 50% of our business, but we filled in all of the lost group occupancy with leisure.
Wow.
Which is
it's a higher rated business, right?
It is a higher rated, even though our group business is probably the best book in the luxury sector. And their spend is, while their rates are lower because they're buying blocks of rooms, their spend is almost as much as leisure. Leisure is definitely higher rated. And this is, yeah, go ahead.
No, because yesterday I had on Michael Midzigian, who's in charge of Watermark, and they've got a lot of huge urban core properties that rely heavily on meetings and events. And one of the things that we were talking about yesterday is that how that group business is still more profitable when you put in that food and beverage group spend, even though you're having a lower rate. But it sounds to me that that's not the case with the Breakers, which really shows, again, why you guys are such an iconic property.
Yeah. With our brand and the limited supply of this product in one of the greatest destinations in the world, right? There is no other, property like ours on the island of Palm Beach. We're able to get a higher price point and spend. And so looking ahead, our fiscal year starts in September 1. September 1, 2021, unless, this whole thing, goes backwards, and I don't think it will, we have as much group business booked for the next fiscal year as we have at the last 5 fiscal years, except leaving out COVID. In other words, we're on pace. Our group demand is back. It's not only back, it's surging. And so now what we're to tie those 2 points together, we're trying to figure out, do we adjust the mix a little bit? We have a very unique mix. Anthony will especially appreciate this. Given the size of our hotel, most hotels this size, even if they're in a resort community, to run a year-round occupancy, they got to do a lot more group business than leisure. They're typically about 70-30, maybe even 80-20. And the leisure is really for them more around holidays and vacations. Our mix is 50-50. And it's a really good balance for us. So
wow. So now this is the time of the program where I ask you a completely irrelevant question. Okay.
All right. Before we do that, let me just talk about how awesome one of their ballrooms are. That's got this amazing glass curtain wall that looks over the ocean. What an incredible place to host a meeting. It is unbelievably spectacular. Sorry, I needed to get that in. Anthony, please take it.
I'd like you to stay relevant because I'm going to go. No, actually, this is not irrelevant, but it's a question that as we're talking, it just hit me. Big project. You've run this place for a long time. You are the Breakers, a big part of it. But when you're done, you're spent from family, from the Breakers, from everything. You're just spent, and you have a good hour. Not like go golfing at like time, but like an hour to just escape. You're at the Breakers. Where do you go hide? What's your hiding place at the Breakers? So everybody knows where to find you.
Well, I best thing would be to get on a stand-up paddleboard and head out to sea. Because I'll be it'll be just me on that board. And the further I go out, there'll probably be no surfers or anyone swimming. And then the best part is I'll turn around, look back at this property. And again, I still go like this. Oh my gosh, Henry Flagler, are you kidding me? And the Keenan family rebuilding. I look back and it's like a dream. So
Isn't it amazing that you can still, I have that feeling about Times Square, that you could still be overwhelmed by something you grew up with, basically?
Yeah, it is.
So what did you do at 9 years old? What did you want to be?
At 9 years old, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player or an astronaut. Because I grew up, my dad was a Brooklyn Dodger fan and the Yankees, the Mets. We played ball all the time in the streets of New York and Long Island, all kinds of ball. But then the other side was, that was the time when, we're launching rockets to the moon. And I thought that'd be pretty cool. Well, it turns out neither one of those obviously happened.
You know what's good about your career is that you've met astronauts and you've met big time ball players.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's so true. They have been here.
Of course they have. You've met everyone. You've met everyone.
Have you ever played baseball with astronauts, though?
That's the name of a movie, Baseball with Astronauts. Or name of a really good rapping song or something.
I have played with some of my friends who were space cadets.
Yeah, I had a whole group of people I worked with. Matter of fact, I have a podcast partner that's that falls in that category.
Where in Long Island did you grow up? Because I'm dialing in from Long Island today.
Yeah, so I grew up in Oceanside. I was born in Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant. I grew up in Oceanside, Long Island, South Shore, about 25 miles from the city. Mm-hmm. And when my parents divorced in 1970, that wasn't such a great thing for our family. But one of the good things was my dad moved to the city, so I spent weekends in the city and most of my days in Long Island. And then my mother remarried and moved our family to Paris, Kentucky. That's a whole story.
I wish we would just stop at Paris. Paris, Kentucky couldn't be more of an oxymoron.
That is true. Although, one of the best things ever happened to me and the thoroughbred horse capital of the world, really breeding. Not that we got into that business. We ended up. That's how I got into the business, the hotel business. My parents,
because you poured concrete, right? Because you're Italian.
You can say that.
I can say that.
You get away with that.
My father came here pouring concrete.
Hey, there you go. Well, we, my mother and my stepdad, they buy a little farm in Kentucky. A 19-acre piece of property is not even a farm. That's like a very small property, but we restored this property and ran out of money doing it. So they had to sell the house and they bought a motel, the Starlight Motel in town in Paris, Kentucky, 17 rooms. And then we added a 50-seat Italian restaurant. And that's where I started in this business in high school.
Wow.
And we only had one employee that was non-family. I have four brothers and a sister. My parents, my oldest brother, my next oldest brother under me, Nick, Michael, and I, Anthony, we lived in room 17 for 2 years. Room 17 at the Starlight Motel had 3 beds in it. I've never seen a hotel room with 3 beds, 1 double bed, 2 singles. And my parents lived above the office, a classic sort of motel, with my 3 younger siblings. And man, it was the best experience.
You know what's interesting, and Glenn's probably having the same thought as me. We know that 50% of hotels are run and owned by the Indian community. And that is a story of the Indian community. You can't find a second or third generation that doesn't have that story. You're the first Italian I've heard that has that story.
That's fun.
Although they probably did wind up selling the hotel to an Indian American who was a recent immigrant.
So listen, on Sundays, I would imagine the office smelled really nice of sauce and meatballs.
So we open up the 50-seat Italian restaurant in a building to the side of the Horseshoe Motel. And the kitchen's so small, my mother had to have the pot of sauce going, the giant pot up in our kitchen above the office, and she couldn't keep up. I mean, it was, just pot after pot being sent over. So yeah, there was always a good aroma coming out of the
So
office.
that's where you got your stuff from. That's absolutely amazing.
It is, and I have to say, I've said it many times. Sorry, Glenn, you were going to. I just quickly say.
I got more Italian stuff to talk about.
Okay, bring it on. Breakers and the Starlight Motel physically couldn't be any more different, right? Two ends of the spectrum. But they were so similar because what I learned at the Starlight Motel was to treat our guests like guests in our home.
Yep.
The service at the Starlight Motel was honestly as good as the service at the Breakers. I mean it. And I also learned about impeccable cleanliness. Now that came really from my grandmother, my dad's side. Every meal in her kitchen, we swept the floor after every meal. We took the stove apart after every meal, cleaned it. And so we had impeccable cleanliness, impeccable service, treating our guests like they were guests in our home. And yeah, it was gravy, Steve. Not sauce.
So you know what's so funny about that story is, and this is a true story, and people don't believe me when I tell you, I didn't know what dust looked like until I moved out. And people say, yeah, whatever. I swear to God, I didn't know what dust was. And then one day I saw dust in my dorm room, and I was like, oh, what's that? I swear to God, it's a true story. Like,
Amen.
My mother cleaned obsessively, and we had the cleanest concrete in Brooklyn.
So my team here will tell you, they thought I was crazy when I started doing this. And this place is impeccable for the size of this property inside and out, the impeccable cleanliness I'll give to my grandmother. You go in, we built a new engine room a couple of years ago. I mean, you talk about the engine room for this battleship, Glenn.
Yeah.
I think it was a $30 million 3-year project.
Wow.
And we opened it up and it looked like, and I brought the team down there, everyone involved. I said, here's the standard, to Anthony's point. You can eat off the floor, and that is never going to change, because the old engine room was horrible.
I bet.
Because from the day one, no one said we're going to be able to eat all, it just got worse and worse.
So tell everybody what's in an engine room the size of the Breakers. Tell people what's in that room.
Wow.
People that don't know.
Yeah.
Before you say that, Anthony, I did get a chance to see that at the Waldorf in New York. It was really cool, going like 10 layers below.
I bet you couldn't eat off the floor.
Yeah. So
that's right. Yeah, and I want to give you a tour. You'll appreciate it. It is amazing. It looks like a James Bond movie. I mean, we've got the boilers, we've got the hot water heaters, we've got the fire pump system that pumps water through all the sprinklers throughout the hotel. We've got a generator that looks like a locomotive, in a room that's air conditioned, and it's got all these mechanics to manage the conditions in the room. We've got electrical, my gosh, the transformers in these rooms. And when we did this, by the way, we moved everything above ground because of the whole issue with sea rise level, although we're in very good shape here, being 17 feet above sea level, but we're still prepared, even more, and for hurricanes and flooding, things like that.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of 007, do you have any super villains with hairless cats staying with you currently?
I don't think so. There was someone who looked kind of like that coming through the lobby this morning.
What, like right today, are you at 50%, 40? Usually I wouldn't ask a luxury hotel what their percentage is, but I'm guessing it's going to be a number that you're going to be happy with.
Like just today?
Yeah, just today. Like, what's your occupancy?
63%.
Yeah, tonight we're at about 52%. And we just, as I said, we came through the season at about 65%. It would normally have been 95, and I could have taken it to 100, but we did. We're projecting for the month of April to end at about 62, May at about 60, and I think the summer probably will get up in the 70s.
Okay, so no, a couple of new. You know what? If we ever do the show 5-Star Secrets, I'm coming to your hotel, because I've done some really beautiful hotels. And one of the things at the hotel in Virginia, oh my God, it's missing.
Not
Help me.
the Jefferson,
No, the really big one, like your Greenbrier.
Greenbrier. Okay, West Virginia.
I walk into the Greenbrier, and I walked into the upholstery shop, and I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite shops I've ever walked into a hotel. I mean, the upholstery shop in this place is not only big; they're so intense on making sure that every single piece of furniture looks like it just came out of a showroom. So, and my favorite part. So when you give me a tour, I'll tell you my favorite part of a hotel, the bakery.
Oh, you're gonna love our bakery.
I would walk when I was the night manager at the Plaza Hotel. First of all, it's kind of like you with the breakers. Every day I would look there and I go, I work here. Like it was just the greatest moment of my life when I got that job. So I would walk out at night. I would walk around, and then I would do 3 walks around the property outside. And then about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I do my final walk, because on the corner of 59th and 5th Avenue, it's 59th and 5th Avenue. There, all the carriage drivers would have their foot all day long on the stone of our building. So you'd have like, just standing and talking to their friends. They always have their foot up on the stone of the building, and there were always footprints. And my mission was to always have the light bulbs and those footprints done by 6:30. So I would go around the corner, and there was, in the basement was the bake shop, and there were 3 grated windows. And when they had those windows open, that changed everything for me, because that, to me, like, everybody has a scent that they relate back to. The bake shop is the scent that makes me think of Grand hotels.
We have exactly that scent. I'm gonna walk you by it, and I don't always come in that way to the building. I come in all different ways, but to this day, from the day I started, when I walk by those windows, they're graded. Also, there's that scent.
So, Paul, tell everyone, every young manager, what you just said, and no one picked it up but me. Okay, you come into your office all different ways. Give a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sit in every chair in the restaurant. I sit in different chairs, different views, come in different ways, come at different times. And again, at this point in my career, a lot of strategic work I do, but I like to say I still move furniture, and I write 5 and 10-year business plans, and I picking up garbage as I come through the parking lot. My guys today, as I came in operations, we get about 6 emails, about a light bulb here, a golf cart was parked in the wrong position. That's just in the DNA.
And the second you change that behavior, the entire team would have a doctor in your office in 30 seconds and go, "Are you ill? Is there something wrong with you?"
That's great.
Yeah, Paul, I think that's great that you mix it up by coming in different ways, sit in different seats, because I think what that allows you to do is to see things, because I think human beings have a tendency not to notice things after a while. Kind of like how we all have that thing. Well, maybe not you, Paul, but we all have that thing where somebody left something in the house and you expect somebody else to pick it up, and then they never do. And then you just stop seeing it. So pretty cool. Keeps you fresh. I want to go back to the Italian thing for one more second. Italian.
Wait, before you say that, just remember, once you say this, you're going to fall into 2 categories: the people that are Italian and the people that want to be Italian. So be careful.
Well, as a Jew growing up on Long Island, I'm already half.
That is true.
And I'm half. Yep.
But I will say, what I think is interesting, opening an Italian restaurant in Paris, Kentucky, in the time frame that I think it was around, that must have been a new ethnic cuisine that people might not have experienced before. So it was probably a really big hit to expose people to those flavors that you brought with you.
You're right. And the fact I'm not even sure there might have been one place in town at that time back in 1970, 74, 75, that you could get pizza.
Right.
Maybe, not even sure, but you're right. We introduced really Italian food in Paris, Kentucky in a significant way. And it was very successful. It was really successful. And Glenn, where did you grow up on Long Island?
I grew up in Comac.
Okay.
52 on the Long Island Expressway for those.
Because I was, half of my friends were Jewish and half were Italian. We had a lot in common.
That's
Listen,
right. It's fun. We always used to joke around that really the only difference between the Jews and the Italians was really the Jesus factor. Everything else was exactly the same. The grandmothers are exactly alike.
Well, wait. I dated all Jewish girls in high school. All my friends were Jonathan Schwartz, Andrew Rubin, Michael Weintraub, Brett Kaplan. So I agree with you. We're all the same, except when I went into Fred Lerner's house after we played hockey on the street, and he said, "Would you like to stay for dinner?" And I go, "I have to call my mom. What are you having?" And he said, "Pasta." And I was just like, right there, I know that's a signal that I'm not allowed to have pasta in anybody's house, number one. And number two, I saw a jar that said ragu on it. And I don't know what that is. And I said, "What's that? Your mother makes her own sauce and she puts it in a jar?" And he looked at me and goes, "No. You buy it in the supermarket. It's called ragu." And I go, "What's ragu?" True story.
It's true.
So at that point, I didn't want to eat over.
That's great.
Oh, calzones. We had this place in college that served the best calzones.
Oh, yeah, don't get us started. Wow.
All right, Paul. Let's get back to the breakers. Looking ahead to the future and stuff like that. It sounds like you feel pretty positive about where things are going, in particular for you. Where do you think customers are going to be with what they are looking for in 6 months? And I don't mean they expect cleaning protocols to stay up. Do you see a shift in the way people are going to want to experience luxury for the long term, or do you feel it's more of an anomaly what we've been going through? I tend to think the latter than the former.
Yeah, I don't think there's any extreme here, but we're gearing up. Even if the customer doesn't move in this direction, we're going to be even more sensitive to spacing and to safety measures. I mean, this is a place that, safety is number one. We got the highest standards, but now they've gone to another level. Mm-hmm. And we're, because of COVID, and many of those things will prevail, yes. Including on the employee side, temperature screening, as we introduced that by the time we reopened on May 22nd last year. I thought, we should have been doing this for 100 years. Like, why not? We don't want someone coming to work in any environment with a fever. And we don't want you. We all know this is an industry where people, they work so hard, and there probably been a lot of people coming to work when they should have stayed home, and we're going to encourage that even more. So back to the customer, I think they are going to be more sensitive to cleanliness. I don't think they're going to expect us to carry forward all of the things we've implemented, but I think they're going to be more sensitive. And I think I put that in the context of opportunity, not a problem for properties, but for us, it's going to be an opportunity because they're going to see another level of sensitivity to spacing, having more breathing room, and to sanitation and hygiene and other safety issues.
And that's interesting because I think going forward, employees should be checked, when they come to work to see if they're sick. But I even like when I walk into a resort or to a hotel and they check my temperature, but if I do have a fever because I have the flu, you're not going to let me stay at your hotel. So on one hand, it's like, you can't do that continuously for guests. Right. But I would almost want them to, because I don't want to be sitting next to somebody at the pool that has a fever.
I agree with you. It doesn't bother me at all when I go in a certain restaurant. Now, we decided not to take guest temperatures as we opened. Right. There was a big debate about that. And we just thought it was going to be, first of all, this, I think we all know, to start with and throughout this, it's mostly been about personal responsibility. Now, you can't just trust, you got to verify, but we decided with guests, we would not do that because of what you just could be very uncomfortable. Like, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And not to get political, but, when you're in an environment like you're in, like New York's very different. If you put everybody in the subway, on even April 15th or May 15th last year, I mean, this thing would have never ended. So, there was a lot of restrictions in New York in the beginning, which I completely understand. But once we reopened and then we closed again, I don't know if I agree with all the measures. But where you are, I like the fact that you were allowed to open and then you're taking measures. Like no one told you have to be 70%. No one told you have it. You did all the right things for your business. You were allowed to operate your business the way you want to. And if I'm a guest and I'm coming to your hotel and you're not taking my temperature and I'm a little bit too close to somebody, I have a choice. I either, okay, because I don't care, or I just move my chair. And so it's interesting that you were able to put in some restrictions, but also operate your business. And more importantly than anything, okay, like you said, the hotel's going to be here another 100 years. You were able to get people to work, not only for financial reasons, but for mental health reasons.
Absolutely. We were so concerned about that. And we were right, because now we've seen what's happened around the country. And I'm so glad we did that. I really am. And our guests have been, the first guests that started arriving from the Northeast and seeing, first of all, look again behind Glenn, we have 140 acres. We have a lot of space. Yeah. And the weather's beautiful, as the weather was getting bad up north and it's getting better here. In the summer, in the early part of the pandemic, a lot of criticism about Florida and our governor, and, Florida's going backwards. And we knew that was going to, we were going to get to the better weather sooner. And
I bet your hotel is responsible. If say you had 10 guests, let's just call it 10 guests from New York. I bet your hotel on a percentage basis is responsible for 20% of guests deciding to move to Florida.
I wouldn't be surprised. There is a real estate frenzy going on down here right now.
I saw something on TikTok the other day where a real estate agent said what it's like to be in the real estate business in Florida. And you see her putting a sign out at 7 a.m. in the morning, right? And then you see her coming out at 8 o'clock and taking the sign off. And at the end of the TikTok thing, it was like sale price or asking price 500,000, sale price $5 million.
That's what's happening. It's true.
Yeah, very true. When I was in Jacksonville a few weeks ago, the general manager at the Crowne Plaza Jacksonville Airport that I was staying at, thank you, Chris Green over at Chesapeake, they said real estate was up over 20% just in the last few months. How incredible is that?
Well, Paul, if you cross your fingers, you may have a friend being in Florida soon with a hotel. So cross your fingers.
All right.
Well, I'm already tomorrow. There'll be an announcement in Hotels Magazine, and I really can't talk about it. But when you see the announcement, don't get mad at me.
Okay. All right. I can't wait to see it.
I'm excited to find out what this is going to be about. Like I don't know what's going on. Oh, are you still wearing masks? Requiring masks for guests? Because a lot of counties are loosening restrictions. It sounds like you might be, considering that you've been a little more conservative.
We're still wearing masks. We're still under a county ordinance, and our governor, is definitely debating, lifting that ordinance and overriding the county. Has not done that yet, and I'm glad he has not. I think we should hold out. Vaccines are going really well down here. Mm-hmm. Our county medical director, Palm Beach County leadership, wow, they have done a fantastic job, I've got to tell you. And our governor, I said, at the state level, the county level, and the town of Palm Beach level, our leaders have done a really good job.
Well, in New York, basically, it seems like everybody knows that wants to get vaccinated is getting vaccinated. My kids are getting vaccinated tomorrow. It's there. I think 40% of all New Yorkers are vaccinated. At least one dose. It's going really, thank God, well. This morning there was some issue with tomorrow, and I called and they answered the phone immediately, and it was all fixed. And I was like, "What? This is a government agency?" You know where the dispatch was? Florida. The lady that answered the phone for a New York vaccine was in Florida. I said to her, I said, "Well, you're in a good mood today." She goes, "Well, it's beautiful out." And I was like, "Yeah, it's nice out." She goes, "No, I'm in Florida." I was like, "Oh."
That's great.
Paul, last question I have for you about your beach out there, which is absolutely magnificent. How long is it? Because it's a pretty sizable chunk of property that goes way beyond the building itself. You got all the condos and stuff next to it, and the whole pool club and spa.
You're right. We have about a half mile of beach, and so to the south of the hotel is the recreational hotel area. To the north of the hotel, out my window to the right here, is our 88 luxury apartments we own and operate, and 48 condominiums that we developed and we managed and own the property still.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. Any final words, sir, before we wrap up today's show?
Listen, my main final words would be, you guys are great. It's so fun being with you. I really do appreciate the opportunity, and I really am so proud of my team. They've done an unbelievable job here from top to bottom, and we're blessed to have the greatest owners in the hospitality business. We are able to do what we do with their support. And this is a special play. It's not just a good business, special business, special business. It's in our industry, it's a good example of how to run a business from a family ownership, the care we give to our team and our community. Our team comes first, Anthony. I know you appreciate this.
I just did do a reservation. That's what I was doing.
All right, good. Can't wait to see you.
Because I'm going into a meeting and I didn't want to forget. So, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, Paul.
I was just going to end by saying, we're in the hospitality business. We're not in the real estate business. I think a lot, these properties are expensive to operate and run. And so a lot of them have traded and become really more real estate assets than hospitality assets. And so, we're blessed. Really proud of my team. We're grateful to our owners, and I appreciate the time with you guys today.
You know what? I'm really glad you said that, because if you don't have great owners, and I've said it many, 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 many times, great hotels start with great owners. If you don't have great owners, it becomes a real estate play. And look at what you have. That can become a real estate play instantly and make a lot of sense. Running it as a hotel, if I'm your son coming out of Cornell, and I'm doing the numbers behind the envelope, because Dad, he says, Dad, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much. I hope that I could get down like Anthony plans to get down.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys. Come on down. We'll be here.
It's a pleasure to be in the same business as you, my friend.
Yep.
You as well. Thank you so much, guys.
Wow. Bravo. Another great guest.
If you don't love that guy, then you shouldn't live on earth.
No, you absolutely shouldn't. All right, everybody. I'm going to try my shameless plug for myself. The book that I assisted on with Sean Worker, The Adapters, available right now at theadapters.net. Please buy this book. It'll help us out and also teach you how to think differently, how to adapt, and make changes that are going to be both great in your personal life and professional life. Check out The Adapters at theadapters.net and on Amazon.com. How is that, Anthony?
Miss Houseman is very happy that you have a name on a book. That's all I care about.
I know. My mom is really excited about it. And my wife, I don't know, but my mom is more excited. Maybe one day my wife will read the book. Hopefully you guys out there will read it.
When a book brings in 20 million, she'll be happy.
We should be so lucky. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you listening every day. Tomorrow's going to be a fun show because we're going to be talking to two entrepreneurs that you might know the names of that started businesses during this crazy time we've had the last year and learn how they achieved success. Right, Anthony? That'll be a good one.
Yeah. Who are those entrepreneurs?
Let's leave that as a mystery so people will tune in. I'll tell you right after we're off the.
All right, my friend.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Remember, you got to make the best of everything, just like Paul Leone has done, because you've only got one life. So blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
see y'all tomorrow.